In this video, we are going to be looking at the completed texture map from the satellite images, as well as creating a reflection map showing the difference between the ocean and the land. And finally, we're going to save out each of these 16 subtexture squares that we've subdivided using these guides. Now, the first thing I'm going to show you is the completed texture map that we started doing at the end of the first video. And it looks something like this. You'll see that I've used two different resolutions, one from slightly further away and one that I've had to readjust to show just the zoomed in, just the high definition area closer to the site. So if you have a look here, I can zoom in pretty far and I can get a relatively good quality on that. But if I pan across outside of my main field of view, you'll see how it becomes much blurrier. This was simply to save time while generating this texture map. You can, of course, go and do it in high resolution all the way around if you like. It is really up to you based on what type of views you need. For example, if I wanted to do a helicopter fly-in and I wanted to trace this entire coastline with a helicopter ride, then I'd want to have a higher resolution image in those areas. But since we're going to be focusing just around here, that's what I made sure was of good quality. Now, to create the reflection map, we just want to create one color that's showing all of the ocean and another color that shows us the land. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the selection tool and we're just going to start selecting the coastline. Now, of course, you can zoom in and do this in much higher detail than I'm doing right now. And you'll just watch as I do a small corner. And then I will show you the completed version that I have ready on the side. Since doing this also takes quite a lot of time if you really want to be accurate. So I'm going to do just these squares for now. It's good enough just to show the principle. So you have that selected and you'll create a new layer and you'll use the paint bucket and just make that solid white. Deselect it and then you'll create another layer just underneath that one and you'll make that one solid black. Once those two layers are combined, you will have a reflection map showing white for the reflective ocean and black for the land. Now, the completed version I have just here below that I'll pull up so we can see how that looks. And you'll see that the rest of the site is completed in slightly more detail than I was doing in the example. So here, if I turn that off, you'll see that the entire ocean has been selected. Now, with the black underneath, you can then go and merge those two, merge layers into one layer. Merging, you will just control-click on both layers, right-click, and then follow the drop-down to the bottom, which has just gone off screen, and you can just click Merge. Right, this layer I'm going to delete, and now we have our main texture map and our reflection map complete. Then below the texture map, we still have the original contour map. Now we're going to use these three images as the main drivers for all the information that we will then follow using AutoCAD, using 3D Max. They will basically be the main site info. Now I'm going to start off using the reflection map and we're going to save out each of these images. Now there are two ways of doing this. Either what you could do is you could save each one individually by selecting it using the square selection tool. You'll press Control-C for copy, and then you will create a new layer, Control-N, which is 2000 by 2000 pixels. Because that is the size that we selected, you'll create OK, and you'll press Control-V for paste. Then you'll save that out as an individual image. This, of course, would take a very long time. So we're going to ignore that route, and we're just going to deselect that. And we're going to take a faster route, which is using a bit of a web designer's kit. So we're going to be creating individual slices for each one of these 16 squares, just to speed up the saving process. Since we can come back and make edits on it, and then we can just immediately save out each of these 16 squares. Now you'll see that I've used the slice tool, and we just go square by square, making each of each of these squares in an individual slice. Now see, the numbering will all happen automatically if you do it in sequence. And we're just going to do the last 8 here. Generally doesn't take too much time. Here I just need to adjust that one a bit. And the last one is done automatically, number 16. Now, this is the part which becomes a little bit tricky, because if your computer has relatively low memory, RAM allocated to it, you will not be able to save out the image. It'll just give you error messages saying the image is too large. Yes, we know it's too large, but we're going to try anyway. Now, I've done some trial and error, and I know that the full 8000 by 8000 pixel image I cannot save. It just doesn't allow me to do it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a duplicate of it, which is this one here. I'm going to right click and merge all the layers. I'm sure I can do it here as well. Flatten image. It'll flatten that for me, and then I will scale down the image slightly just so that I can make an attempt to save it without having memory problems. So on image size, I'm going to do 6000 pixels, and it'll just scale that down slightly. Now, here is a step to save all those 16 squares out. Save for web and devices. Click on that. Say yes, you want to continue, even though you know that it exceeds the size. And over here, click on original. And then just zoom out so you can see all of your 16 slices. Now, with the slice tool selected here, go and select the first one, and then holding down Shift, just select all the others. I just have to wait for the computer to catch up, since this is quite memory intensive. And go back to the original, and then you just select each of the 16. Once you have that complete, you go up to your preset and you make sure that it's JPEG high. Click on that, and then click on Save. Now you just want to go into your texture folder, and you want to create a new texture folder called this is the reflection, right? So that's reflection map. Within that, just make sure that you have all slices selected here from the drop-down list. It generally is by default. And then you press save. You'll see that it'll save out that entire image. And then, if all worked out well, I'm just going to bring in the folder here, and we can have a look at what was created. We'll see here that we have that entire 4x4 saved out into its 16 individual textures. Now we want to do exactly the same process for the other map, which is the satellite image. So we'll do the same process where we duplicate that, just so that we don't lose the Photoshop file that we have with multiple layers. Once we have that, we go to flatten image, discard, yes. Then we repeat the image size, drop that down to 6, press OK, and we repeat the process, save for web and devices. Now, your previous preset should be saved in, so you most likely will not have to change it again. Once that comes up, it'll give us the same message again, saying it's too big. Yes, we know. Go back to the original, since you don't want to be viewing the optimized, since the computer has to work hard to show you the optimized version. We zoom out, make sure you have everything selected, and already we're seeing that by selecting everything, you don't really have to save it. It's just to make sure that the preset is all the same, since some images could otherwise save as GIFs, other as bitmaps, other as JPEGs. You don't really want that. You want everything to have the same preset. So we make sure that it all is correct, press save. And then instead of going into the reflection map, we're now going to create a new one called satellite map. Go into that, all slices is on, press save. And if all of that is correct, you'll see that the bar here is showing us the progress. And you'll see that what was saved is your 4x4, your 16 squares. Each one will be 1.5 by 1,500 pixels. And you can see that you have all of your texture maps saved out as individual squares. So success on that part. Right, so that brings us to the end of this video. In the next video, we will then have a look at how we can bring in these images back into AutoCAD, and we can then start generating the CAD files that we will use in 3ds Max to generate our contours and basically the whole site model. Right, thanks for watching and see you in the next video.